All right, fantastic, friends. We are really going to unpack some interesting things today. And we're going to discuss the tidal wave that is the change that our country is headed to unless something drastic moves. 47 major cities in the United States are effectively unaffordable for the average American. And why this matters, regardless of which generation one considers himself in, young people, that is the growth of our nation, cannot afford to perpetuate the standard of living at their age that their parents had in previous generation. And it's for this reason that en masse, they're not launching, so to speak. They're not having children. They're not building families. And this is more than just societal woes stemming from moral decay. These are financial issues. And so I think it behooves us to really pay attention to this. The young people are being told right now that this is capitalism's fault. And no, it isn't capitalism's fault. There's much more to it than that. But there's a despair that is palpable that people can feel, and it's really crushing their desire to seek to do better, to work harder, because the rent is so ridiculous. There's no incentive and there's no sense that a person can get ahead. They don't feel that they're able to keep the fruits of their labor. The trends throughout history is that whenever people feel like they are not able to hold the fruits of their labor and they're not able to really actualize any benefit from it, then A, they'll say the system is rigged, or B, they just give up altogether. And a lot of people are doing both right now. This is happening in New York City, and we see this evidenced with the recent victory of an overt socialist as candidate for mayor. And the thing is, this is not just a housing crisis. This is not just an affordability crisis. The root of this here is that this is a currency crisis. You could say that this is stemming from a moral crisis, but definitely we are experiencing a wealth crisis, and this job crisis that is headed our way with the help of AI is really only going to add fuel to the fire. And I would submit, turn this from a linear curve into an exponential J curve of potential change. This is being exploited, by the way, all of these things in all of these points, all of these factors in the formula are being exploited by socialists and Marxists for their benefit, of course. And we kind of expect that at this point. One of the things that I'm noticing right now is an increase in intergenerational households where you have 3 and sometimes 4 generations living together. This was quite common in really up until the 50s. This was extremely common. And you can look at census records to bear this out. If you're into genealogy, you can readily see evidence of this reality. But the thing is, the shift that we're seeing here in multi-generational households coming together and this affordability trap, there's one thing that is not underpinning us from a security standpoint that we had in previous generations with multi-generational housing, and that is land. This is huge. Because so many people, and this was really a cultural phenomenon, bought into this lie of sell your agrarian holdings, sell your land, sell your farm, sell out, and move into the cities or the suburbs in the 50s for the new version of prosperity, right? So many people bought into this, and as a result, they sacrificed their ability to effectively feed themselves and their families. Now we have people living together, for instance, in these small plots and small houses, right? On land that effectively can't really produce for a lot of people. Or, for instance, when you're looking at these new developments, particularly in boom areas, COVID boom areas like Texas, like Florida, and even Tennessee, you're looking at North Carolina, you're looking at areas of land, especially in Florida, where you have all these developments on land that effectively is worthless. It's not capable of producing and yielding for you. And even if one did have the inclination, the capability to do this is not so easy because this generational familiarity has been lost, right? All of this matters in the context of the lead up to a socialist revolution and why we should be very vigilant right now, okay? Now, when we consider the unaffordability of what's happening right now, so many people are burdened. They are cost burdened. They are tax burdened. They're taxed to death. They're taxed in their estates in some cases. If you live in a state, for instance, where your estate is taxed, where you can't effectively, your children are being robbed of what you work for. Now, this is a very, very serious issue. But what's happening now with all of these issues circulating with housing, it is creating effectively this vortex of hopelessness that people in the ages of 20 to 40 are looking at their finances and they're looking at a drain, a vacuum that is placing them in a position of never being able to afford a home. When you look at the generation of 20 to 40-year-olds, keep in mind these are people in their prime childbearing years, right? When they feel like they have no security, no capability of having a house to land, the desire to have children, the desire to have a family is naturally going to go with that. Furthermore, there's no way really to accrue, unless you are disciplined, there's no way really to accrue any type of wealth. When you do this to people en masse and create hopelessness and a sense of, I am losing the hamster wheel race, the system is rigged, nothing that I do is going to benefit me, it creates a groundswell of popular support for massive change. And in this massive change, people become very willing to crack and break a few eggs to make an omelet, right? The call of the communists. You got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Very, very dangerous things. But you can see how it gets to this point. Of the top 50 metro areas in the United States, I have some fun statistics here to break down for you. Maybe some disheartening statistics. Only 3 of these top 50 metros are affordable to median income buyers. And how do we gauge this, right? You have to look at what the median household income is compared to the median household purchase price. And when you look at what the median, not average, median, so you line them all up numerically and find the numerical middle, not the generic average, okay? The median household purchase price in the United States right now en masse is about $420,000 for a single family home, okay? But when you consider what that is in proportion to an individual's, well, look at a family, like a household's take-home income, there's no way. Like, it just doesn't add up. And so it's significantly worse even in the 70s. So a lot of times what you're seeing here is this tension generationally come up between people, which will be exploited by the socialists. You can watch it. This tension that, for instance, the older generation says, well, I lived smaller and I had interest rates that were in the double digits and we made ends meet. Well, the issue is that you had A, currency that was worth more back then. B, you could have people effectively, they weren't living high on the hog, but you could raise a family of four to 6 on one income. It is extremely difficult to do that now. And not because people are living in McMansions necessarily. There are many reasons for this, but one of the chief reasons is because the dollar has been debased and also wages have not grown. When you look at what happened, in the Weimar Republic, it was a very similar phenomenon. And a lot of this was driven by printing of money after wars and the attempt at expansion. Also, the Versailles Treaty and the reparations that were placed upon the German Empire afterwards were very severe and probably led significantly to the rise of the Nazi Party. So you have cost of living increases in housing, cost of living increases in healthcare, which is just completely rapacious in the cost of it. But then also now the cost of fixed goods and commodities has gone up. All of these things have gone up. Meanwhile, wages have stagnated. This creates a pressure point and the fuel for a Marxist and communist insurgency. So when we consider the nature of things moving forward, you have a very real crisis in cost of living. But this just kind of spins its wheels in absence of a dynamic figure that can galvanize the populace and say, the system we have is broken. We need massive change, willing to crack heads, crack eggs to make this omelet, whatever the case may be. You gotta be willing to accept losses. The ends justify the means. Classic Marxist dogma. Enter into the equation the New York City Democratic mayor primary victor.